So much for cooking. Hiya, welcome back to my channel. Just a little disclaimer before I get started. I just want to reiterate that this isn't an advice video because everyone's recovery is so different depending on what their body is capable of, how deteriorated their body is and how that's going to react to food, because I know that there is refeeding syndrome. It's just what I learned, mistakes I made, things that helped me. I have notes here again. I do talk about the different types of food that I was eating, and I kind of wanted to address the topic of veganism. Might sound quite random, but everything I did during recovery was purely for recovery because I wanted what was recommended for me to eat. The changes that I've made since then to my diet is my own personal kind of thing, but I guess I was a bit wary of talking about food just in general on YouTube because I know it's quite a touchy subject. So if non-vegan foods is something that you're not interested in hearing about, then this might not be the best video for you to watch. But anyway, now that I've kind of gone through all that, so after my decision to start recovering, and that's something that I could talk about in another video if it is of interest to people. To begin with, I was scared of going back to certain foods, so I did avoid carbs a lot. So introducing them was probably the biggest, and food portions obviously as well. Those two were the biggest kind of hurdles I went through kind of mentally. But to be honest, I kind of took to it quite well, which I'm grateful for because I just wanted to recover at this point. So I started by upping more of the same foods that I was eating already. So I would commonly have fruit for breakfast, so I would kind of just up the portions of fruit that I had, and then I started having just a plain wrap, like a wholemeal wrap, like tortilla wrap with them, and I guess that was kind of my introduction back into more regular carbs. This being said, I did move to large portions quite quickly, and that was the onset of all the different side effects that I had during recovery. So because I went on to larger portions and just kind of a whole expanse of food that I hadn't really been having throughout anorexia, that kicked off the symptoms straight away, because I know that I know now that it's recommended to kind of gradually introduce certain foods and portion sizes, especially at the beginning, so your body can kind of get used to it gradually. But I was a bit more of a kind of straight in, I'm going to get better now kind of thing. When I started having these symptoms, that was when I started researching the kind of body's reactions to food online. So if you do that, I would recommend, if anything, to keep to professional articles, kind of professional eating disorder websites and that kind of thing. In terms of the types of foods that I was eating, I also eating foods that were high in sugar, so like sugary fruits and cakes and desserts and stuff, and I found that when I would eat these, that the water retention would kick up a lot quicker and it would be a lot more extreme in terms of the side effects that I had. In part of the research that I made, I found out that sugary foods, and whether they're natural or, you know, like pudding sugar, if that makes sense, that and white carbs are digested very quickly into the body, which is why it goes straight to the water retention. So I avoided them. Obviously I had some just like naturally in other foods anyway, but I stuck to complex carbs, which is like whole wheat, wholemeal pasta, and brown bread, and obviously just potatoes, just your average potato. It was more of a steady, slower release intake into the body, so it didn't kick up the water retention quite so much. So I kind of kept this up for a long time and honestly just didn't really know, without a professional opinion, I just didn't know what it was that I was doing, whether it was right or whether it was, well, I felt that I knew that it was right because it was everything that my body needed and the side effects were showing me that, but I guess kind of just the way that I was eating and the expanse that I was eating, I didn't really know like what was recommended to help me with the side effects. So I kind of went through that from the beginning of June until August, which was when I saw a nutritionist. During the days where I was eating kind of off my own back, I would snack during the day in between meals already. Some of the foods that I was eating as I was doing this wasn't the best to help progress the reduction of water retention quicker. So I was going for just like mainly carby, savoury kind of stuff anyway, but when it came to like crackers and that sort of thing, that obviously they don't have a lot of nutrients in them, so they weren't doing me the good that they could have been if I had changed to another food. Before I went to see the nutritionist, I did a weekly diary of everything that I ate during the day. I would recommend that when you go and see a nutritionist that you do this as well, because I really felt like that cut out a session. I guess that way you can kind of save yourself a bit of money and time as well. And so if you write down everything that you're eating each day for a week, I would really recommend that, because that way you could just assess it straight away and kind of give me advice instead of having to ask a lot of questions or asking me to go away, do that and come back again. So I found that really helpful. So she recommended me to keep up the complex carbs and avoid the fast absorbed sugar. This is where she advised me that my diet wasn't complex enough in terms of the vitamins, minerals and the fats. And this is something that I learned about water retention, is ironically, because of the way it feels and the way it looks and the way it is, one way to really help reduce it is to have a high fat diet. This consisted of breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, mid-afternoon snack, dinner, and then a snack after dinner as well. She also said to me to eat instinctively as well, so if I felt like it was too much for me to stop, or if I was capable of eating more, then I should eat more. So to just be aware of what your body's capable of the whole time. So this is an example of what I would eat in a day after seeing the nutritionist. This is what she recommended, and I really noticed a difference in the speed of recovery after this. Which is why seeing a nutritionist if you're having anorexia recovery, I feel, is just the biggest help that you could give yourself, because trying to understand recovery by yourself is quite an isolating and confusing thing. Like I said before in another video, I would see a nutritionist over a doctor, because anorexia recovery, from my experience after seeing about 3 doctors, wasn't something that they weren't very knowledgeable about. This is an example of my day eating. For breakfast, I was recommended a 3-egg cheesy omelette, or like obviously you don't have, I didn't stick to that every day, I mixed it up a bit, so I would either have that or something like peanut butter on toast with a protein shake. And then mid-morning I would have 2 crumpets with butter on and a coffee, like a latte style coffee, so I would just have milk in it, but that would be whole milk, and the entire time I went through recovery I was drinking whole milk. Lunch I would have soup and 2 pieces of bread with that, or if I hadn't had an omelette for breakfast I would have an omelette then with salad. My mid-afternoon snack would be a handful of walnuts, a handful of cashew nuts and some dark chocolate, because dark chocolate is quite high in fat, which I did like healthy fat, which I didn't know, and obviously it's the kind of chocolate that has the least amount of sugar in it, so I was going for that 80% stuff, which was amazing and I love it anyway, so I was happy with that. I would either have that or I would have a couple of wholemeal wraps with hummus. And then dinner would just be kind of an average dinner, but if I was having, what I mean by that is salmon and vegetables and mashed potato, or I just kind of went with whatever the rest of my family was having, but I would kind of cater that to include some fat if I could. So if I had boiled vegetables I would put butter on them, just trying to include as much of everything as I possibly could. After dinner snack would be Greek yogurt with chia seeds, because chia seeds are also something that's really high in fat and is obviously very healthy for you as well. I ate that purely for recovery purposes. That was not tasty in any way, I hated it. And also I was having that Greek yogurt where it kind of separates, so you have to mix it instead of just the smooth stuff, so it wasn't my fave, but I just kind of downed it and did it anyway. And then if I wanted to later on I would have some cereal, so like Shreddies or Special K or something like that, if I felt hungry or if I felt I could eat that. I was just on an absolute roll, I was just eating for my life. And week by week and month by month I could just tell it was really, really helping me. And I don't want to kind of fantasize my time after seeing a nutritionist, because it was still as much of an ordeal as it was beforehand, but it definitely helped so much. And a couple of side effects as well that are kind of directly related to your stomach in terms of food. I had the mass bloating, so after a meal there was one time where I had to stop eating my meal because I felt like I was going to start throwing up because it was a bit too much, and that only happened once, which I'm very lucky for. After each meal, like as recovery went on, I would have bloating kind of from under here to like straight down my stomach and all the way around my sides to the back of my spine. I was kind of like a barrel, and it was hard and it was painful, so I lay down a lot during recovery, especially after meals, which I found really helped, just to kind of stretch your body out and just be able to let it start getting used to digesting that amount of food again. So if you're having bloating, please don't freak out about it being weight that's not going to go or anything like that, because I know for an eating disorder mindset it can kind of spring up that fear. If you think about it, if you haven't ridden a bike for so long, you have to get used to it again, and your stomach has been starved of certain foods for so long, it has to get used to being able to digest it again, and it's out of practice with that, so that's why it kind of reacts the way that it does. And a lot of people as well, I read online, can sometimes feel like either glucose or lactose intolerant when they start recovering if they haven't had that before, because of the reactions of the stomach. But obviously check that with your doctor or a nutritionist or something, but it can play on your mind when you start having these extreme side effects from just eating. Also, this is something that I really wasn't expecting during recovery, and that is when you start getting the sweats and the racing heart and that kind of thing, that is your metabolism speeding up to a normal rate again. Because obviously if you're not eating properly, I guess it's kind of a survival thing, your metabolism's going to slow down to try and stretch out the amount of food that you're having for as long as humanly possible, because it doesn't know when it's going to eat again. So when you're having that, and it is horrible, like it really isn't glamorous, but it's not going to last forever, like all these side effects if you keep going. Everything's just having to kind of get back used to the amount of food that you're having. When I started uni again in October, I left it until the very last chance that I could to move back. So from the end of May until this time, I felt almost completely better, but especially in the morning, I would have kind of water retention under my chin, and I would kick that off straight away with breakfast and like my milky coffee and that kind of thing to try and get rid of that as soon as humanly possible. To be honest, like even now, the water retention has kind of reversed in terms of reacting to food. So if say over like exam season, which has just happened, like if I wasn't having a very varied diet of kind of all the nutrients and stuff that I was needing, I could feel the water retention coming back a little bit as kind of a reaction. I guess in a way it kind of shows me when I'm not eating properly. So even though I wasn't like avoiding food, I was just having that kind of student lazy eating kind of thing, but because my body's been through so much, it still kind of reacts to changes in food. Even though that is still happening a little bit, it is less and less. So the further away you get from recovery, the less you're going to feel these symptoms. That's kind of where I'm at now, really, just having as much expanse of nutrients as I can, like vitamins and minerals and fats and that kind of thing. Just from personal taste, I don't really have a very high sugary diet anyway, because it just doesn't make me feel very good. And while I was anorexic, I was kind of addicted to sugar anyway, so I kind of have that memory, I guess, as well. It's not because of avoiding sugary foods now, it's just my own personal taste. I hope this has been interesting, and I've kind of been able to show you one side of eating disorder recovery in terms of food and how I learnt from it. These seagulls. If I could tell myself something then that I know now, is to go and see a nutritionist straight away, because I definitely should have done that instead of just trying to recover by myself and off my own back. I just wanted to say as well, thank you so much for the comments and the messages that I've been getting through from my anorexia videos. The response has taken me by surprise a bit, and it's just so lovely hearing people's responses to it. And yeah, I'm just always so grateful to hear from you. If you are recovering, sorry, just shuffling around it. If you are in recovery, I just wish you so much luck and so much support. The fact that you're starting to recover already, you've taken that decision upon yourself to start recovering, is such a massive step already. That's such a hurdle to even kind of go through mentally. I'm just wishing you all the best. The differences you're going to see is insane. And also, if you're watching this and you know someone in recovery, wishing you so much support as well, because really it does affect absolutely everyone. The strength and support that you show to the people recovering is just the best thing. And thank you so much for watching to the end if you have, and it's been really good to do another anorexia recovery video. And now that uni is over and I'm a free elf, I want to be doing a lot more videos, so yeah, it's really cool to be back at it a bit more regularly now. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll link all my other videos below that I've done about anorexia, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!